Right guys, there are now only 11 game weeks to go until the end of the season. Still plenty to play for at both the top and bottom end of the table. Got plenty to go through in today's video. We had a bunch of games going on in midweek, all of which will be discussed. But of course, we're here to preview all of this weekend's games. Make sure to get involved in the comments down below. Drop your score predictions. Without any further ado though, let's jump in. So to kick things off, on Friday night, we're going to Carrow Road for Norwich up against Oxford. Norwich were held to a 1-1 draw with Blackburn last time out. Oxford lost yet again, this time at home against Coventry. Now, for Oxford, they are in danger of being dragged back into this relegation scrap. It's 7 games without a win now for Gary Rowett's side, and it just seems like in recent matches, they've not been able to strike that right balance between attack and defence. Oxford have been pretty blunt in the final third recently, but they did score twice against Coventry. They had a bit more going for them in the final third, but that seemingly came with a cost at the opposite end of the pitch where they were looking a little bit leaky. Norwich themselves are still a little bit up and down week to week, but they've only lost 1 of their last 7 matches. They've got more firepower about them than Oxford at this point in time, and I would back them for all 3 points in this one. To kick off the weekend, I'm going to go 2-0 Norwich on the Friday night game. Next up, and to the first of the early kickoffs on Saturday, we're going to Coventry up against Stoke. It's Mark Robins up against his former employers. I'm sure he'll get a really good reception at Coventry, but this isn't the sort of match you want to be going into, especially when your confidence is down right now, as it looks to be in that Stoke squad. They obviously got a point last time out against Watford, but performances haven't been brilliant from them recently, and it does feel like if Stoke are going to get anything from this game against Coventry, it's going to be a case of Victor Johansson just having an absolutely blinding performance, because you would expect Coventry to get into quite a few decent goal-scoring positions. It's just a case of whether or not they can bury those chances. Lampard's men absolutely on the march right now. They've won 8 of their last 9 championship matches. They put 3 past Oxford last time out. You'd imagine that Robins is going to come into this game with a plan to try and nullify Coventry as much as possible, but I just see them getting through that Stoke defence right now. Score prediction for me in this one, I'm going to go 3-1 Coventry. At that, we go to Vicarage Road for Watford up against Millwall. Millwall were obviously in FA Cup action over the weekend. They then had that game last night against Bristol City. Maybe a few tired legs there at Millwall. I thought that was the case for quite a few of the clubs that were in FA Cup action and then played in midweek, to be honest with you. This one feels quite low scoring and marginal. Watford haven't been giving away a great deal to the opposition recently. It's 3 consecutive clean sheets for Tom Cleverley's side. A goalless draw with Stoke last time out, but they had 2 back-to-back wins before that. Score prediction for this one, the first goal feels really important. If Millwall get it and they're a bit more fired up than they were in midweek, then maybe they could grind out a result, but I'm just swaying it towards the home side in that one. Score prediction, I'm going 1-0 Watford. And then into the 3 PM kickoffs on Saturday. First up, we're going to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Hull, and Bristol City have properly put themselves amongst this top 6 picture, haven't they? It's back-to-back wins now for the Robins, a good win for them in midweek away at Millwall, and do you know what? This one really could go either way, because Bristol City, fantastic at home. They've won 6 of their last 7 home matches, but Hull cannot be discounted, especially away from home, and especially against, a top half side away from home. Hull tend to rise to the occasion in these sorts of matches. For the Tigers, it was a pretty routine win for them, I thought, in midweek. 2-0 against Plymouth could have easily been more than that. With that 3 points, they put a bit of breathing space now between themselves and the bottom 3, which is pretty handy. Now, consistency has been a bit of an issue for Hull all season. They're yet to win back-to-back matches under Ruben Sellers. They'll have the chance to do that this weekend. Can I see it happening here, though? Because Bristol City have just been so strong at home. It really feels like that last playoff spot is really open at the moment. Bristol City are gunning for it at the moment. I think they may get the job done here. I'm always left with egg on my face when I'm back against Hull away from home, but I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City in that game. After that, we go to Turf Moor for Burnley up against Luton. Now, Burnley do have the chance to put a little bit of pressure on Leeds United. They're playing on Saturday. Leeds don't play until the Sunday, and if Burnley win this game against Luton, they'll be just 2 points behind Leeds by the time that Leeds play their next match. So that's worth taking into consideration here. Burnley way off the pace over the weekend in the FA Cup against Preston, but got things back in midweek with that 2-1 win away at Cardiff. And let's face it, they are the obvious favourites for this one. Luton, they really needed that result last time, 1-0 against Portsmouth, but even with that 3 points, they still sit 5 points adrift of safety. And I've got to be honest, for any of those sides currently in the bottom three, it's going to take a real effort for them to survive from this point onwards. They need to put together a consistent run of form. Can I see that building for Luton here? I'm not sure I can. Listen, I wouldn't completely discount this one being a goalless draw, but Burnley seem to have a bit more about them in the final third. At least they have done of late in the league. Score prediction for me in this one, I'm going to go 2-0 Burnley. After that, we go to Derby up against Blackburn. John Eustace up against his former employers. I'm sure the Blackburn fans in particular are right up for this one at the moment. I'm pretty sure Blackburn's away allocation for this game pretty much sold out instantly. That away end is going to be absolutely bouncing if Blackburn do win this one. And I mean, for John Eustace, his start at Derby, it can't have gone much worse. It's 3 games, 3 losses, no goals scored. To put into context of just how blunt Derby have been in the final third recently as well, they've scored 1 goal in the last 540 minutes of Championship football, and that goal was a penalty. So they've not scored from open play in any of their last 6 matches. Now, it would be absolutely typical of the Championship for Eustace to finally turn a corner when it's Blackburn in town, but it feels like Valérien Ismaël now will have his feet firmly under the table at Blackburn, obviously. They snatched a point late on last time against Norwich. Score prediction for me in this game, I'm going to go 1-0 Blackburn. After that, we go to Home Park for Plymouth up against Sheffield Wednesday. Plymouth really off the pace in midweek. Maybe it's a case of fixture congestion catching up with them a little bit. Obviously, they were in FA Cup action against Man City over the weekend, but that real big crunch match they had against Hull, they really didn't offer a lot, and to be honest, they probably got quite lucky to escape with just a 2-0 loss in the end, given some of the chances that Hull had created. Now, you'd expect them to be a lot more competitive in this game, especially given it is at home, and it seems to be a fairly decent time to be playing Sheffield Wednesday, who have lost 4 of their last 5 league matches. To be fair though, thinking back to the reverse fixture on the first day of the season between these two sides, it was one of the most one-sided dominant displays we've seen from a Championship side this season. Sheffield Wednesday absolutely play Plymouth off the park that day, but quite a bit has changed since then. There has to be some sort of reaction from Plymouth from that performance in midweek. I've got a feeling they may get a point from this one, but I don't think that'll be enough to, charge their survival campaign or anything like that. Score prediction here, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. After that, we go to Bramall Lane for Sheffield United up against Preston North End. Heckingbottom returning to Bramall Lane. I'm sure he'll get a good reception in this one. From a Sheffield United point of view, like we were saying with Burnley before, it's probably a good thing in terms of pressure that they're playing before Leeds. They get the chance to really put the pressure on Daniel Farke's side, and the Blades are the favourites coming into this game. Preston, for as good as we've been recently, as tough to break down as we've been, we are looking really short at the moment, particularly in midfield. We've got Ben Whiteman out injured at the moment, Dwayne Holmes, Todd Arson couldn't feature in midweek because of a knock, and Ali McCann went off injured as well. So coming into this weekend against Sheffield United, there's a chance that Ryan Ledson's our only fit holding midfielder, which is a real issue. I thought we should have won in midweek against Swansea, to be honest with you. Obviously, coming off the high of that Burnley game over the weekend when we beat them 3-0 in the FA Cup. Against Swansea, we had some good opportunities, but just didn't have that cutting edge in the final third. Mad's missing at the moment is obviously a big one as well. There's just a lot of injuries in that Preston squad. I've got a feeling if Sheff United get ahead early in this game, they'll just take it away from us, and we could be looking a little bit leggy with all the matches we've had recently. Don't get me wrong, North End do tend to raise their game a little bit when we do play some of the top sides, but Sheff United being at home, it's tough to look past them in this one, if I'm being honest. Score prediction, I'm reluctantly going to go 2-0 Sheff United in that game. After that, we go to the Stadium of Light for Sunderland up against Cardiff. It is back-to-back home matches that Sunderland have coming up, so they'll look to get that consistency back in their playing results, obviously coming off the back of those back-to-back losses they had against Leeds and Hull. It was a good win for Sunderland last time out against Sheffield Wednesday. Cardiff, maybe one of those sides who has been suffering a little bit with fixture congestion. Obviously, they had that FA Cup tie on Friday against Aston Villa, went into that game against Burnley in midweek, which was always going to be very tough. To be fair, Cardiff could have snatched a point late on in that game. They were pushing for an equaliser towards the end. It just didn't quite fall for them. I don't think this game will be completely one-sided either. Cardiff have proven themselves of late to be a pretty tough nut to crack. Like we were saying before, we saw Hull go into the Stadium of Light fairly recently and walking away with all 3 points, but Sunderland I just think will be a little bit more fresher for this game. They've not played since last Friday. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 1-0 Sunderland. After that, we go to Swansea up against Middlesbrough. Momentum can switch really quickly in the Championship, and I think we've seen that with both of these clubs recently. Obviously, Middlesbrough have been on that horrendous run of form, but with back-to-back wins, they put themselves back into the playoff picture now, and this has to be another game where they are targeting all 3 points. Swansea, while they have looked more competitive since obviously losing Luke Williams, there's definitely more quality in that Middlesbrough squad right now. Obviously, I saw Swansea last night against my side, North End. Thought they probably came to play for the point, to be honest with you. Going forward, Swansea didn't have a great deal of quality, but on the opposite end of the pitch, you have to credit them for that clean sheet, and it is now back-to-back clean sheets for Swansea, to be fair. I don't want to speak too early and say that Middlesbrough are back or anything like that after winning back-to-back matches, but I think they will just about edge this one, which would make it 3 wins on the bounce. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 2-0 Borough on the road. After that, we're going to the Hawthorns for West Brom up against QPR, and not the easiest of games to call this one. West Brom coming off the back of a really good point away at Leeds. Not many people probably fancied them to walk away with a point from that game. Going up against a QPR side, though, who can be decent at rising to the big occasions when they play the teams above them. I thought on another day over the weekend, they definitely could have got something from that game against Sheff United. It just got away from them in the end, didn't it? QPR do have quite a tricky run of fixtures coming up, but I wouldn't discount them pulling off a few upsets over these next few weeks. The difficulty here is West Brom tend to be so consistent at home. If you sort of discount that loss they had at home to Blackburn recently, I think they've actually only lost one of their last 13 matches at the Hawthorns. So that record speaks for itself. QPR, wouldn't be that surprised if they nicked a point on the road. I'm just going to edge it to West Brom with home advantage. 2-1 to the Baggies, I'm saying, in that game, but should be a decent encounter, that one. And then to round off the weekend, on Sunday, we're heading to Fratton Park for Portsmouth up against Leeds, and this one could be a bit of a tasty encounter, you know. I mean, definitely thinking back to the reverse fixture earlier in the season, it was an absolutely bonkers match at Ellen Road. Leeds hadn't quite obviously landed on their best 11 then. It was the first game of the season. It ended 3-3, and do you know what? I could definitely see both teams getting on the score sheet in this one. Portsmouth make things happen at Fratton Park. I know they dropped the ball a little bit last time with that loss away at Luton, but they've won 6 of their last 8 home matches, and for as good as Leeds can be, as dominating as they can be, and I'm sure they'll craft plenty of chances out for themselves in this game, Portsmouth make things happen when they're at home. For Leeds United, there could be a bit of added pressure. The fact that this game is taking place on Sunday, Sheff United could tie level with Leeds in terms of points when this game takes place if the Blades beat Preston on Saturday, so that's worth taking into consideration. Leeds coming off the back of a 1-1 draw with West Brom last time out. They'll want to get back to winning ways. I reckon Leeds may just get the job done, but I'm not completely discounting maybe Pompey pulling off a bit of an upset there. Score prediction though, I'm going to go 2-1 Leeds in that game. But there you guys have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go in to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and get all your Championship score predictions in the comments down below. Apart from that though guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.